So good afternoon, and thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Roger Singh. I'm Global VP of Supply Chain Planning Solutions at Vuealta. Vuealta is a leading provider of best-in-class supply chain solutions built on the Anaplan platform. We're also a provider of services, implementation, and consulting in the areas of finance, HR, marketing, sales, and workforce planning. We're also a global gold partner of Anaplan. Today, our webinar topic is optimizing demand and inventory planning, how to deliver consistent service excellence in times of disruption. Now, throughout this, I encourage you to ask questions. Please refer to the Q&A section, and you can log your questions in there, and we'll take those up towards the end of the session. Joining me today is Justin Glatz and Peter He from Vita Coco. Vita Coco has been a company that's been around since 2003. They're headquartered in New York. They're one of the leading brands in terms of energy and health drinks. The product itself is made from the coconut. So it comes in the form of coconut water, coconut milk, oils, and energy drinks. The product is sold and consumed globally as well. So Justin, Peter, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks.
Thanks, Roger.
So we know that Vita Coco is a fast-growing brand. Would you mind give us a bit more detail in terms of the company, the products, and your role within the organization? And I think, Justin, why don't we kick it off with you? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Roger. Well, Vita Coco is the better for you beverage brand that's best known for our coconut water and our coconut products, pressed, pure flavors, and so forth. We also have coconut oil, though, so we go beyond the beverage, and we're innovating into particularly the energy space with things like our Runa tea, sourced out of Ecuador, and our MCT infused coconut water product. Beyond that, our new PowerLift product is a better for you sports beverage, PWR standing for post-workout recovery. Our customers are generally mass food, retail, food service, and we even started some direct-to-consumer, and I think we're going to cover some of that interesting story later on. My role at Vita Coco is global responsibility for all technology.
And I'm Pete. I'm the technical project manager for Vuealta, and I also lead our operational analytics team. So at Vita Coco, our core belief is something, we have a tagline of good for feeling good. And it goes beyond just our beverage. It's really part of our thesis. We're working on a Vita Coco project, which is working to positively impact over 1 million people in the coconut farming communities worldwide. We do that through environmentally focusing on environmentally friendly packaging. For example, we also have aluminum bottled water, principally brought to the market under the thesis of reducing plastic waste in the ocean. So we really try to extend ourselves beyond just beverages and do what's best for the world.
Great, thank you, Peter. Thanks, Justin. I'm a consumer of your products, and I love the healthy aspect of it and the well-being aspect of it as well. And it's really admirable to see that Vita Coco is being socially and environmentally responsible, in the globe. In an industry where there are many choices of beverage products that are available to the consumer, how has demand for your products evolved or impacted, and how have you addressed it?
Like you said earlier on, Roger, Vita Coco has been around since 2003 and 2004. So, we have evolved from an emerging beverage product into a highly desired everyday household beverage good. Today, you can find our products almost anywhere across the country and worldwide as well. So naturally, the demand for our product is just growing and spreading across the US and through the worldwide market as well. Now we're one of the leading natural beverage brands. Our strategy has always been to adapt with the changing market and address it from our supply chain and operational efficiency perspective. Some of the evolutionary factors that we've seen over the years are definitely healthier beverage trend as we all know, soda beverages are on decline. We're a low sugar option, so a lot of consumers are definitely leaning themselves towards that. And yeah, we're growing with the market and we're adapting with it.
That's great. We see healthy eating these days is driving a lot of innovations in products and what products are being brought to the consumer in the marketplace. At Vuealta, some of our customers are actually leveraging our PLM solution to be able to model new products and products that are coming to fruition in terms of launches and releases, and to be able to model the financial and the demand aspect of releasing new products as well. How did you leverage insights into how consumer behavior changes and how it affected demand for your products?
Right now, our visibility into the sales performance of our products, even far downstream from our initial sale to our direct customer, has exponentially grown with advanced technologies and practices in information management. Business intelligence analytics is the tip of the iceberg for a volume of information that's become available to us today that is unprecedented. So gaining that information and piping it through those channels and through those technical services such as BI&A has become easier than it ever has before, and the data is becoming more available. The consumer information that we pipe through it is everything from scan to behavior, and we can gauge that against the product dimension, right? But even deeper than that, as I kind of alluded to in the intro, with our D2C launch, we're closer to our consumer and their preferences than we've ever been before.
Yeah, and to echo off of Justin's point before, his team really brings us all these data points available. Our goal is to be, like I said earlier, to be agile, adaptive, but not so much reactive. We are trying to be more proactive on our actions. With all these data points, we're able to execute because we can quantify all of our data and bring them into measurement. We can act accordingly based on a data-driven decision. For example, some of the data points we use are consumer point of sale data. Promotion is a big part of our data pool as well. And really those combined is going to paint us a picture on what our sales demands are, maybe separating the two from the actual point of sales to what promo looks like, different time, different year, if there's any seasonalities. We really try to look at all different perspectives to try and be a little bit more predictive on how we can supply plan and really gather that demand information.
Yeah, that's I totally agree with this. We see some of our other customers are actually leveraging things like sentiments, consumption data, other types of data to be able to bring innovation out into the marketplace. They're also looking at ways to drive, new product launches or demand shaping, essentially, to understand, how that's going to impact the demand and the supply plan. Ultimately, trying to get the right product to the right place at the right time. So definitely concur. For companies leveraging BI solutions for consumer insights, what else should they be considering in helping rapidly changing consumer-driven environment?
BI and what you see as dashboards, reporting, analytics is truly that 10%, the tip of the iceberg that you're seeing at the very top. Below the surface of that water, it needs to be not only a fairly realistic investment in the data management, data integration, and data storage technologies, especially amidst some of the more modern and contemporary capabilities that come with such an investment, but the actual data governance practices and processes and policies need to be in place to make sure that all of the investment, both above and below the surface of the water here, to extend the iceberg metaphor, is being made in a constructive way that will yield value.
Yeah, definitely we see, as well, from a BI perspective, it's a great way to be able to look at either historical data or some of the current data to understand the current state of the business and tell you where you need to go directionally as well. We're also seeing some of our customers look towards predictive analytics to be able to now take it directionally where they need to go, and looking at other types of data that's brought into the process to help them make a decision from a forecasting perspective. How would you differentiate between forecasting and predictive analytics, and what would it mean to the business?
Roger, I can take that one. So this is in my personal and professional opinion, working with Anaplan as well as Vita Coco as well. I think the biggest difference between forecasting and predictive analytics is how we react to them and how the input data is being measured. I think both type of thinking have a place in today's demand and supply planning process. Forecast is, in my opinion, more of an art and also a macro level study. It really allows the users to understand and design a overall business strategy based on historical data of a particular product. Predictive analytics digs into a little bit more of current statistics. It can give the users many different outcomes, and a user can broaden and narrows the input and cater to specific business needs. Forecast is a story. It's like a scenario and narrative around what the predictive analytic math are going to split out as a number. So, you're really kind of playing a balancing act between the two and picking what's right for the business and what type of outcome do you really want to go through as the predictive analytic part of the calculation.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, traditionally, forecasting tends to look at maybe one data point, essentially sales history, and then try to predict what the future is going to look like. Predictive then consumes up much more other types of data, such as, macroeconomic data, consumption data, sentiments, and bring all that type of information in to bear, and using machine learning to be able to forecast. Anaplan, we're leveraging Anaplan's Plan IQ, which is machine learning based, and essentially consumes those same types of data to be able to provide an enriched forecast and an accurate forecast going forward. Switching gears here, thinking about the current state of the world and inflation and interest rates. High inflation rate today, coupled with changing world events. What would you recommend that companies do from a demand and supply perspective while competing in the marketplace?
It may sound like a cop-out given the topic of the conversation so far being so focused on data, but the answer really is to stay focused on data. The big data fad, as it's proving itself to have been, did popularize something that was true though and stays true till today, which is the 3 V's of data that's been growing: the volume, variety, and velocity. Right. And even today, since the big data fad, it's those 3 dimensions of describing data and measuring the world's output of data and creation of it continue to just exponentially grow. The technology's marketplace is ripe with solutions to capitalize on the growth in those 3 dimensions. And practically speaking, what that really means is you have to go get them, use them in order to have the practical output of getting more data, getting it to the right people in the right places at the right time. That is absolutely key.
Yeah, and to Justin's point before is, he has mentioned data governors and big data. What his team really does for us is they bring in a ton of data, but they're clean and they're well organized, and we're able to take that data and really calculate and quantify all the information that's given to us. This helps our team to focus, that's most importantly, and execute on the right targets, and allows us to look further down the road for a lot of different scenario planning. So some of the data points that impact our top line sales are definitely promotional data, different scenario planning, and planning further down the road really allows us to collaborate with our distributors and supplier. It might allow us to get more products early ahead, buy them at a cheaper rate, so that we can really work to fulfill our demand without thinking last minute and being really reactive to the current situation.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, there's a sea of data that's out there today, right? From, going back to the term of big data. And we see that, speed of data provides early knowledge, which gives you the ability to recalibrate or, and make changes to plans to, again, address what the market is looking for. Continuing on that thought, so what forecasting strategies would you recommend to support growing volatility and variability of consumer demand?
Roger, I can take that one again. So I think first and foremost, in today's world, a good software system like Vuealta, it's going to provide a lot of rapid scaling and cloud-based solution. In today's world, I think both of those are a must-have. Adding in a system like Vuealta is going to give us a lot of flexibility and adaptive capabilities, which will allow us to accommodate for different variabilities. Some of the bigger things that we try to look at from a data input perspective are statistical forecasting. We look at like new product introductions, sales input, marketing input, and demand planning. All those things different combined and pushing it through a system like Vuealta is really going to give us the really the chance to fulfill our demand within the market.
Yeah, I mean, very much agree. I mean, we support a collaborative demand planning process, in the Vuealta supply chain solutions suite of products. So essentially start with this statistical forecasting, use that as a reference number that then drives the rest of the process from, marketing, PLM activities, demand planning, sales, and ultimately the unconstrained consensus plan. We also bring in the ability to measure those forecasts. So if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So employing performance management as part of the process, I think it's also really helpful in, driving towards an accurate forecast. With growing volatility, what is your experience with new product introductions?
So we're always looking to launch new product, as now we see ourselves as a natural beverage CPG brand. Launching a product really enables us to create new demand globally and driving brand recognition and awareness. This has enabled us to grow as a brand and maintain demand for our product. As far as experience with new product introductions, again, having a system like Vuealta is really going to help that. You need to look at what previously may have existed, or if there's any similarities to the product that you're launching, to give your new product a chance. You can't just really plug in random numbers. You could, but I think the results of that may be widely variable because you don't really have any previous existing information to give you a correct output.
Yeah, and with the commoditization of internet technology, e-commerce platforms, and the availability of being able to spin up a site, spin down a site, and templatize and parameterize so much of what internet presence is these days, in product launches, we've actually been able to do this through D2C. So spinning up websites that we can put new products that are yet not on store shelves yet, but out directly to our consumers. We can see response data come back from those sales. We can see engagement across the site. We can see engagement and sharing beyond just the initial impression. So that's been a great experience for us from a technological perspective with regards to product launches.
Yeah, definitely paying attention, to the marketplace and consumer sentiments will help you stay ahead of the curve in terms of demand. Over the last 2 years, how is demand and supply planning affected by your trading partners? So suppliers, distributors, or those types of individuals, and how did you overcome them?
I can take this one, Roger. So, over the last 2 years, our entire product line has really grown pretty significantly. Our supply team was able to use a lot of the data adjustment team is able to bring in. Again, we want to be more predictive, right, rather than reactive. And that really means planning further ahead, perhaps, like I said before, making purchases on raw materials earlier to lock in better pricing, because we all know inflations are rising. Ocean freight has also been a challenge for the past 2-3 years. So, some things that we do around that is we we take our data for demand. We really try to secure containers further ahead of time so we can reduce our lead time and try and meet our consumer demand. Again, big data is really helping us to adapt and minimize supply disruption. Some of the other data points that we certainly use, not just from demand, we look at our logistics efficiency. We look at how our packaging is being packed. We really do a lot of time studies and calculations to look at what we are doing from a product perspective, what we can control, and why, and is something being not so effective and not efficient. We try to look at data and try and make decisions how to make things more efficient, quicker, faster, so we can really, again, meeting that demand of our consumers.
Great. Just to narrow down a little bit more from a question. So a lot of our customers either are outsourcing their products to be manufactured, or they have suppliers, a combination of suppliers, and outsource. From your perspective, what can companies do to close the gap of planning with their trading partners? And again, such as suppliers or contract manufacturers in this case.
It's this isn't a new idea, and I hate to sound like I'm taking credit for it. So I'll preface what I'm about to say with I say this as a emphatic support of the existing thought leadership behind standardization. So theoretically, standardization can create a degree of complexity through everyone has to do some level of transformation when you're electronically communicating with your partners and your trading partners. But the reality is at a macro level, having standards and everyone working to them creates an interoperability and a marketplace dynamic of commoditization of skill sets and knowledge that will reduce the time to market for those electronic communications. So as much as you can standardize or standards base your electronic communication interchanges with your partners, that will be a significant both cost savings and value unlock for what you're trying to do with them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Digitalization of relationship between trading partners is going to be a key thing going forward. We see some of our customers engaging in customer collaboration and supplier collaboration. The idea is to be able to incorporate those partners into your process and system to be able to have direct and immediate feedback with information. What led Vita Coco to take a look at supply chain solutions? What was going on in the business and in the process and in the environment that led you to look for a new solution?
Yeah, so from Vita Coco's perspective, we're watching our demand grow really year over year, right? And the question that we ask ourselves is, how do we continue to meet this demand? And given the current unstableness in the world, we were looking for a solution that's really going to help us look at our historical data, but not just look at our historical data, but maybe look at them a little bit differently, right? What was the same demand with the same curves, with the same frequency may not be the same today. Both on a macro level is going to help us output different scenarios to plan for the change in our business pulses. And that's what we're really trying to do. Again, going back to what I said before, meeting that consumer demand wisely is really what we're trying to do.
Coconuts may be our heart, but technology is by far our nervous system and our brain. As our business evolves, changes, grows, our folks like Pete come to me with more and ever more complex problems and needs. We want to make sure that not only are we doing the traditional, what are the requirements, what are the problems, work the problem and solve it. But, we have a keen eye to staying contemporary and ensuring that, our technology partners and our technology partnerships are going to scale with us for the immediate term growth, no matter how rapid it may be. So, a partner like Vuealta certainly had fit that bill. We had to move away from a lot of spreadsheet-based processes, manual processes, tribal knowledge, kind of cultural norms that really drove a fair amount of how we did this stuff. And moving into a flexible platform that can scale out, scale down, scale up, scale sideways, just basically grow in whatever oddball way we ended up needing to grow, was an absolute priority for our technical requirements going into such a search. Bringing together then a lot of the processes, not just from the manual to system orchestrated, but how that actually also allowed us to connect a lot of disconnected processes that may have only been a relay race via email in the past. So that was a lot of our technical thinking as we went through this. Certainly cloud first, certainly very, very elastic, very agile, and ready to scale.
That's great, Justin, Pete. Vuealta on the Anaplan platform certainly, fits the bill, and to be able to support a lot of the needs that you just indicated. A lot of our customers and, that I've seen are coming from an Excel world, essentially running their business on Excel or dated systems that are difficult to use, cannot upgrade, and they're just fairly clunky. Our supply chain solutions at Vuealta provide the full end-to-end planning, from collaborative demand planning, inventory planning, supply planning, and collaboration as well, along with S&OP. With that said, how have Anaplan and Vuealta solutions help you maintain your profits during the rising global inflation?
So with Anaplan and Vuealta, we are seeing a lot of help along the lines of minimizing our risk and really planning supplies accordingly based on our changes and growing demand. What was the same, like I said before, 2-3 years ago, may not be the same today. It's a difficult thing to plan as a company, because you don't want to be overreactive, but you also don't want to be underreactive, right? Because then you start to lose money because you're not meeting the real consumer demand. So I think given that our demand is on a constant growth, we're really looking to, first thing we're trying to do is protecting our profitability by selling more. And number two is really help by reducing COGS. And we do that through being very, very efficient. We try to look at our data wisely, having different scenarios. All those things is going to protect us from global inflation. And the bottom line is, if the demand is there, we're going to meet it with supply. So therefore, ultimately, all those things are going to help us protect our revenue and profit.
That's great, Pete. The Vuealta solutions, or supply chain planning solutions, were designed specifically to drive lower TCO, right? So on high ROI in that sense. And again, ultimately giving you faster time to value to get a solution up and running and start realizing the benefits. We definitely are affecting both the operating and financial metrics of organizations, and not just after go live, but ongoing as well. Well, Justin and Pete, this has been terrific and very insightful and informative conversation. I'd like to take a break and turn to some of the questions that the audience may have posed in the Q&A session, or a Q&A chat, and we will take it from here.
Great. Thanks for having us, Roger.
Thanks for having us, Roger.